What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate reverse rants, no hate. So, I was watching this interview with Jared Anderson, and Jared Anderson was saying that basically he doesn't love boxing, that it's a job for him. Now he's 23 years old, and he's saying that he probably see himself retiring in the next 3 or 4 years. So, he's saying between 26 and 27 years old. Now, my thing in listening to that interview, it's his life. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and say, "Oh, nah, he need to keep fighting," because what? It's not my life; it's his life. Now, the way I see that situation though is this: at 23 years old, of what you've done, what you've lived already, and he said that he's been fighting since he was 8. So he's burnt out. That's what he's saying. Now, I forget the name of the guy that he was originally going to fight, but he pulled out for whatever reason, and Charles Martin is a replacement for a July 1st fight. I'm just going to say, you know, in boxing especially, is one of those things where people claim they retire and then they're back. I mean, several people have done that throughout the years. But if he feel that there's something else out there that he wants to do, that he's fine with, whatever it may be, that's still his life. People, when you're in the spotlight, people tend to look at you like they think they have some say so in what you do. And in this case, we've never seen him fight a quality opponent yet. So, there's people saying like, nah, why? What is he talking about? Oh man, this dude, he don't want no smoke. All this, just it's a bunch of nonsense. It's mixed signals on what people are saying. I don't know. Sometimes people do these type of things to get attention. Maybe want whatever their promotion to take them more serious, pay them more money, whatever. I don't know what he makes a fight, and I really don't care, like personally, to know what people make. That's their personal business. But if he was making the kind of money from boxing that would want to keep you in there, I don't think so. I don't think, and that might be part of the frustration. Maybe the money is not what he thinks. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. But I'm saying that because at the end of the day, well, for one, based on his level of opponents, we know that he's not one of the, can't be one of the highest paid for damn sure. I mean, again, no, his star power, he's not really that popular. He's a rising star. He is an up and coming guy. But one thing is for sure is, if your money is not what you want it to be now, and you step away from boxing, unless you find something, like I said, that you're satisfied with, that it's easy to say that I'll retire. A lot of people, the younger you are, you're quicker to make hasty decisions because you're looking at something from your perspective right now, and you probably can't see past what's in front of you. But to feel burnt out and been dedicating your whole life to boxing, yeah, that can be frustrating as well. From 8 to 23 is a long time. But either way, just saying, as you get older, you start to get wiser, you start to experience more things, you'll start to see things different. I remember the rapper The Game. He made a line where he said something about, you 38 and you still rapping, I'm 26, nigga, so is the dubs. Yeah. In other words, man, when I'm your age, I'm not gonna be rapping. Still rapping. So just saying, it's like the younger you are, you're looking at things from that one perspective. I know in that interview he said that he had a talk with Roy Jones and that, he respects Roy's wisdom and his insight and things that he see, but that's Roy Jones' life, not his life. And so apparently he probably was saying the same things to Roy about retiring at 26, 27, and Roy was probably telling him, you got so much more to offer and all that type of thing. And so, like he said, he respect Roy Jones, his wisdom and, things that work for him, but that's not him. So, it is what it is, man. So I'm really not making this video to talk about what I think he should do. It's his business, what he does. I don't care what he does. It's his life. But I just found that interview interesting because here's a guy that hasn't gotten to where he would like to be. And I remember an interview probably like 2 years ago. They were asking him about who he would like to fight, and he was saying, "Man, I got a lot of time because of his age." And I remember thinking to myself, it always seemed like you got a lot of time. And then all of a sudden, time goes by, and you're thinking, "Damn, where did the time go?" Because before you know it, it's like that. Years have went by, and Jared Anderson has yet to fight an elite guy. Now, Charles Martin is not an elite guy. He's been in there with Anthony Joshua. He fought Luis Ortiz. And, Gerald Washington is not an elite guy either. But just saying, he's been there with certain people that have, whether it was Gerald Washington, winning against Deontay and getting stretched, Gerald Washington, beating Robert Helenius or whatever. It's like, because these guys go back and forth with the lower tier fighters. Okay, so they're on the same boat as far as I'm concerned. So, if anything, people are going to look to see how Jared Anderson looks against Charles Martin. And basically, if he destroys Charles Martin, this one fight alone can get attention to him a lot quicker than everything else that he's done. Why? Because not because Charles Martin is a world beater, but if he can go in there and beat Charles Martin and have a standout type performance, that is going to make people pay more attention to Jared, even if they go, "Man, come on, man, it's Charles Martin." As long as they're watching. And the thing is, I'm pretty sure we know by now, you're always going to have a bunch of people that just don't like to see someone else succeed at something. So we've seen, to me, the worst thing that Charles Martin did, was when he fought AJ, and I clearly feel like he could have gotten up. Y'all saw what he did. Like he wanted out of that fight. In one round, AJ made him, I don't want no more of this. It wasn't losing to Adam Kalnaki, because at least he tried. It's one thing to fight back and it's not enough. But, in that fight, AJ took his heart. So, and, people will look at that. They'll look at everything. They're always going to look at everything, especially the downside. But for Jared Anderson, if he goes in there and make a real statement, because, like, for example, Luis Ortiz is a guy that, people with this boogeyman talk, they're going to look at, even in that fight, how, he was doing well earlier until he started getting rocked and getting caught and got beat up. And we all know how that fight went. So, yeah, they're going to look at Jared to see how he looks against Martin. And I mean, those who are tuning in, I don't think this is a fight that just gets a lot of people attention, just, from the two names involved. But Jared Anderson is a guy that I like him as a fighter. And I think that, you never know how good a person is going to get, how much better they're going to get. But I think the fact that he's saying that he doesn't love boxing is what people are kind of like, what do you mean? You don't really have to love boxing, man. I mean, you have to love boxing in order, okay, put it to this way. If you can love boxing, or you can take your job real serious. Okay. You have to understand what the task is at hand. Long, short term, however you want to, whatever your goal is. So no, you don't really have to love it. The difficulty in that, in the long run, is exactly what he's saying. He feels burnt out. This is why, ultimately, people who, because Sugar Ray Robinson said he didn't love boxing at one point. I remember, that he said he didn't love boxing. He didn't like the fight. But then he was doing it. Why? So you have mouths to feed. It's the occupation that you chose. You understand? So those days when you don't want to get up and train, those days when that alarm clock goes off and you just already. This is where a lack of passion for something, okay, can come back to haunt you. And you can't be passionate about something that you don't love. It's just impossible. Okay, look at what both words mean. You just can't. But in terms of taking your job serious, like, because I've had jobs I didn't like. It wasn't the job, just the people, just the environment. Just it's like, nah, nah. I've never grown to love those jobs because I've never gotten love from those jobs. You understand what I'm saying? It's business, and you realize yeah, it's business. So yeah, you can love what you do. Doesn't mean that the people and you are gonna mesh together the way you guys are supposed to be cohesive to get through a day's work respectfully and professionally. So just saying, listening to what he was saying, and people like, oh man, he lost his mind. Hey, nah, I didn't take it that way. I just felt like, he might listen. He might mean every word of what he's saying, and let's say to the point where it actually happens. But the reason I'm saying what I'm saying is because, for one, most fighters nowadays fight once, maybe twice a year. So I don't know how soon he turns 24, but unless he's willing to break into the top 10 right now, the type of money that I'm pretty sure he wants to make. Okay, let's put it to you this way. You're not going to make Tyson Fury type money or Anthony Joshua type money. You're not going to make that by fighting Charles Martin. Okay, it's once you get in there. And he actually tried to make a point to the interviewer saying that's not necessarily true. Okay, because he said because what look at the numbers that you know Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis just made, and that was for no belt. So the point that he was making was fighting for a championship don't mean anything. Well, in this day and time, yes and no. But the thing is, he doesn't have the popularity of Tank Davis or Ryan Garcia. So you understand what I'm saying? You're in two different spaces, and him saying this is heavyweight boxing as if it's automatic. No, it's not automatic because, for that matter, look at what he hasn't accomplished yet versus what Devin Haney's accomplished, or Shakur Stevenson, or you understand guys that are his age. Well, Shakur, I think, is 26, a few years older, whatever. But bottom line, point what I'm saying is they've already, you know, gotten themselves into a position of being stars, superstars, or whatever you want to call them. Jared hasn't yet. So for his retirement goal to be realistic, I would think it's based on income. Like, let's be real. I mean, so it's like this. Let's say, for example, someone who is, if you've been making like millions of dollars, okay, or close to $1 million, you take a normal paying job, okay. And when I say a normal paying job, you know what I mean. I'm talking less than 6 figures a year. Let's put it to you that way. All right. If you're fine with that, cool. But in boxing, the goal is to walk away. Like he said, if it's not about the belts, okay. Then it's, and he's like he does it to feed his family. He does it for the money. So yeah, I mean, and the thing about it is like it's not about disputing what he say he wants. But I just feel like at 23, you don't, you like I said, you see things from your perspective right now, and a person can be, uh, mature beyond their years. That can happen, but this is the thing. It's like people get married when they're 23, 24, and then all of a sudden the marriage just doesn't last. And that's why people say it was timing. Why? Because you add spaces in your life. Really, and it's a different thing because people don't marry out of love anymore. Love has nothing to do with nothing. Everything now is like a business relationship. They're even referring to people as high, like was like high level, low level, individuals. Like, you know what I mean? So like you're not a person. You're a fucking number. You understand? So but it's the same in principle of what I'm saying. So I don't know with Jared Anderson's his profile that he has already. One of the things people are saying is they want to see him against a bigger opponent. Well, finally he'll being able to guy his size. Okay, and Charles Martin. But really, he needs to make quick work of Charles Martin to make a statement, and he needs to keep the ball rolling afterwards. If you and my thing is to realistically be able to retire in just 3 years because the money is significantly higher and you can retire off that money and you have generational wealth. Who's next? You know, and then put these fights together. Like, I mean, look at the heavyweight. The heavyweight division right now is the suckiest division. It's like nothing's happening. All we hear is speculation and a bunch of lies and a bunch of he said, she said. So, what impact is Jared Anderson going to make to where all of a sudden he gets Deontay Wilder in the ring? He gets Anthony Joshua in the ring. He gets Tyson Fury in the ring. He gets Alexander Usyk in the ring. That is a fairy tale. And for him to even get halfway, even a quarter of a way to that being realistic, Jared's going to have to fight like 3-4 times a year for the next 3 years because people are just not jumping in the ring. And when you are high risk, low reward, you're more liable to get pushed away. And that's always going to be the excuse that the veterans use. He hasn't done anything yet. That's always going to be the excuse. So, I don't know. Maybe he's saying all this just to get attention to himself, to get people to pay more attention to him. Because, and I mean, like on the promotional side of things, somebody that feel like they can pull some strings and get certain fights done. I mean, they place anybody else in a top 5, top 3, whatever, that don't belong there, and just saying, being the mandatory doesn't even mean anything anymore. We just heard, Benavidez say he was, Canelo Alvarez's mandatory, WBC mandatory for 3 damn years. Like, goddamn. We've seen the same thing happen to Dylan White. Then, but being number 1 doesn't necessarily make you the mandatory. No, you said he was the mandatory. They flip flop with it, So I just think that Jared Anderson, man, like, and I believe it's some frustration there. I really do. But the idea is to look like I'm in control. I'm not desperate. I'm not, I don't know. I just know that when it comes to this boxing game, it's dirty. And for him to feel burnt out, man, he's only human. And yeah, I mean, it happens. But I thought it was an interesting interview, but I just don't see his plan being realistic. I just don't. So, again, at 23, you think you know what you're going to be doing at 30, 35, 40, whatever. Then what happens? Time goes by. It's like, nah, okay. You learn as you go. There's wisdom. Wisdom comes with experience, not just age. You don't get wise just because you get older. It's experiences that you have in life, things that you go through, things that you see. Just like, for example, the conversation that he had with Roy Jones. One day he might find himself having a similar conversation with another fighter, or just being in a position where he's saying to himself, I clearly see what Roy Jones meant. I didn't see it. I mean, I understood it, but now I really get it some years later, because that's not a realistic goal. Like, I understand what he's saying, but again, it's going to come down, for what he's saying, is going to come down to how comfortable he feels financially in the next 3 years. And the thing is, for you to walk away knowing there's tons more money out there that you left on that table, that's enough to get you back. It's definitely enough to make you come back. So let's just be real. I mean, we know certain fighters that have way more popularity than he do, and they might be making 2.5 million, 3 million, maybe something like that. So whatever you're making, I mean, when you can sit down and somebody can tell you, I make 30 million a fight, and you're making maybe $1 million or almost $1 million or whatever it may be per fight, you know how much of a gap that is? And I don't care how much you feel like you got your mind made up. Sometimes you have to step away from something to like get that fire back. Like, man, I gotta, get reinvigorated, But yeah, I just think that's what it is with him. I mean, who knows? But it is what it is. If he continues to fight, so be it. If he doesn't, so be it. Okay. For those who are not speaking out of hatred and ignorance, I believe what they're saying, okay, is what the same thing I'm saying. Okay, let me speak for me. You haven't made your mark yet. You're still an unknown. Okay, when you say the name Jared Anderson, it's not like, oh yeah, no, his name doesn't ring bells like that. So not only that, even for people that heard of you, he's had no fights. And let me say something because I hear this all the time. Let me just correct this. You always hear people use the term legacy fights. Okay, every fight that you have is a part of your legacy. When we talk about elite level legacy fights, okay, that's what he hasn't had. Okay, so example, right? Floyd Mayweather didn't become the A side in boxing until he fought and beat Oscar De La Hoya. So his legacy didn't start with Oscar. His legacy started from fight one. Okay, his legacy started from the amateurs. Okay, so as a pro, okay, if you're not if you because you can be a pro fighter and people don't talk about your amateur career too much. Yeah, that happens often, more than it doesn't. Okay, his career, his legacy started from fight one, not after he beat Oscar. He had already beat some elite names by the time he got the Oscar. That's the whole point. He had to fight to get to that point. So, the point is, if he doesn't really care about the legacy, okay, fine. But it's the elite level fights that's going to define where you stand in your career. So if he don't care about that, that's fine. But to get the kind of money you want, you're going to have to beat some elite level guys. And I know, like him making a comparison, but he can't say that about, Ryan Garcia and Tank because unlike Ryan, Tank is a 3 weight division champion. Okay? 3 weight division champion. Jared has no titles. Never had any titles. Neither has Ryan. Okay? Tank was clearly the A side going in. Tank creates excitement. You understand what I mean? Tank is must-see TV. Jared's not that. I like Jared as a fighter. And yeah, I like watching him go in there and do his thing, but you have to be realistic about where you stand and who you are. And him thinking that being a heavyweight is automatically gonna generate more money, not necessarily so. And not to mention, the opponents, like you're gonna have to step in there with an FA job at some point. You understand? A Joseph Parker. You're going to have to get in there with a Frank Sanchez. You're going to have to fight these guys. The opposition that he's been fighting so far, they're not going to get him close to the type of money that he wants. That's just facts. It's not happening. And if you don't fight a Frank Sanchez, you don't fight a F.A. Ajaba, if you don't fight a Joseph Parker, if you can't get an Andy Ruiz, you can't get a Dillian White fight. I mean, hell, for that matter, a Jermaine Franklin fight. You're going to have to get in there with those type of guys. And he just doesn't have that on his resume right now. And again, he needs to destroy Charles Martin. If he goes in there and have a debatable, if it's even close, that's not going to say a lot of good on his behalf. Because even for people to say, they're not going to give him he's only 23. Even if they did, it doesn't matter. Because Charles Martin is not at the top of the food chain. So, just looking at the situation for what it is, I think that there's some frustration there. There's some disappointment there. There's some fear of, man, these fights are not where I need them to be. They're not where I need them to be. My career is not where I want it to be. But I'm fighting my ass off, training my ass off. I'm trying to get, I don't know how anxious he is to get these names. I don't know, saying like, because see, the whole thing is this. You don't have to love something to be great at it, but you do. Imagine Michael Jordan saying, I don't love basketball. I just like the money. You think he would have been as hungry on that court as he was? You think he would have been as relentless? Do you think he would have been as dominant? Do you think, you know, Kobe Bryant, like, do you think that these guys would have been able to go out there and perform like that without having that passion? And again, you can't be passionate about something you don't love. It's just not there. Okay, it just doesn't happen like that. So I think too, with him saying that, it made fans feel like, boxing fans feel like he's not dedicated. You see what I mean? And he's doing what he's doing for himself, which is cool. It's not that he don't have to worry about what the fans think, what anybody thinks. Okay? The reality is, when you say you don't love something, you just do it for the money. And you're in a position where you want a short-term career, but you have certain financial goals that you want to obtain by that time. It's not realistic. He'd have to do what Mike Tyson was doing. And that's just knocking everybody out, like, devastating, to the point, like, damn, like, yo, did you see this guy, Jared? And that's not what's happening. And I think Jared Anderson is a good fighter, but it's just not what's happening. Different day, different time. What y'all think about Jared Anderson retiring in 3 years? Y'all think that's realistic? Y'all think he's feeling the pressure right now? He's feeling some kind of way? That's what I think. Or maybe he's just trying to, get some attention, say things that'll get people talking, just like we talking about this interview right now. Into that interview, I've talked about Jared Anderson in the past, but there was nothing really going on with Jared Anderson. So now that he has a fight coming up, and maybe fighting Charles Martin, because I don't really remember the guy he was fighting. I didn't really know much about him, to be honest with you. I don't even remember his name. I do remember going to look him up, and I'm not even familiar with this guy. So, you never know. I don't think it's a realistic goal, though. I don't. You have to put in and earn your keep, not just have a vision and think this is what I want and it's going to happen. It just doesn't work like that. If it did, should I be a multi-trillionaire by now? Fuck billionaires, fucking gazillionaire. They have to make up another word for me. Anyway, never fall in love with lies. Remember, the truth brings hate out of people, and I will catch y'all in the next video.